Okay, we'd like to go ahead and get started tonight.
Yeah.
If we could have you quiet. We want to get started with our...
We're starting the meeting now, so if we'll have some quiet, please.
Okay. We'd like to get started and welcome you all out to our Planning Commission tonight, and we'll go ahead and get started. We've got a couple of things on the agenda. The first one we'll do is a conditional use permit for a major home occupation for foot zoning at 172 South, 200 East.
Okay, Madam Chair, I'll do a quick introduction to the item, and then I believe the applicant may be here this evening if there's additional questions of her. Ms. Wines requested a conditional use permit to operate from her home for foot zoning, essentially a reflexology type massage practice, and visiting with her and reviewing her plans for her business, dealing only with one customer at a time, by appointment only. Generally take up to 2 hours per appointment, depending on the specifics of what's being done. Anticipates doing services pretty much between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Most days, so typical business hours. Based on the understanding of that, an inspection of the site and property and visitation with her and going over the ordinance and regulations therein, staff's opinion and recommendation was that it could be approved by the Planning Commission without additional conditions or restrictions.
Thank you. Any questions?
Is the applicant here?
You want to step up?
Want to step up? Yeah.
Please.
Please.
Go ahead and state your name.
Alyssa Wine.
Thank you. So, have you done this in the past?
Nope, I just am newly certified.
Okay. All right.
So I gotta ask. You probably already know where this is going, eh? What is foot zoning? Pardon my ignorance. But.
It's okay. Basically, there's a map of the body on the foot. And so triggering those points will help the body to heal itself, because sometimes there's just blockages in our body. So sure. Instead of doing other things, we try to help the body holistically.
Okay, so it's holistic.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a cousin certified to do this, so I knew.
I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
A lot of people use it.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
So.
Do we get a discount being Planning Commission members?
Sure, you can get 10% off.
I'm kidding.
So.
For you, extra.
For me, extra, right, exactly. I'll move that we grant a conditional use permit for major home occupation B for foot zoning for Miss Alyssa Wynn at 172 South, 200 East.
I'll second. Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Okay, thank you. Good luck. All right, our next one is a conditional use for cosmetic injections at 322 North Autumn Cherry Way.
Okay, again, as introduction to this item, and just as a slight side note, I left the pun and joke away. I was sure someone on the Planning Commission would make a zoning joke about that last one. But this next one here, again, another home business. We've got multiple of these tonight. Ms. Chatwin, that lives on the west side of town in the Hill Farm subdivision off North Autumn Cherry Way, is a certified APRN and therefore is qualified to do essentially Botox treatment, the cosmetic injections, and I believe it's called the Bella injection specifically. She has spoken with me. She does work full-time through other things, so this is going to be probably 1 day a week. The appointments are pretty quick. They can be as fast as 15 minutes. There'll be a little space in between each client that comes. Doesn't necessarily have an existing clientele, so the number of people has been unknown at this point, but again, just kind of part-time from the home, offering the service. Having visited with her and reviewing everything, it's, again, staff's recommendation that this can be approved by the Planning Commission without the need for additional conditions.
Is Allison here? How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. So, any questions that we...
two, actually.
Okay.
What does APRN stand for?
Advanced Practice RN. So it's
Okay.
a nurse practitioner,
But
like a
with
PA,
a little
like I'm above a PA,
extra wang to
below a
it?
doctor.
Okay. And then, I guess the other thing too is, I mean, does this fall under the auspice of a medical kind of thing, right? I mean, a medical procedure.
Correct.
Is the Davis County Health Department involved in this in any way, or?
No. Twice I've called them, and we need legislation for that they should have to come and make sure that I have proper dispensing of
Like
my
sharps
needles
container
and
and
things.
stuff, right, yeah.
They do not have anything right now, and that will be my next thing to legislate for.
So there's nothing.
And-
There's nothing. I've called her twice, in fact. And I'm like,
Right.
are you sure? Sure.
Sure, whatever you want to do. Just throw them out in the
Fine.
gutter. It's fine.
Well, HIV.
Don't you, and so there's no certification required for people who would like to start the aesthetics?
Well, it's not aesthetics. You have to be an APRN.
Oh, okay, so that's the
So,
protection, is they
yeah.
just hope that
You would follow.
as a professional you know what to do.
Correct. Yes.
Interesting.
So
Which
do you
I
work?
do have a sharps container and
Yeah.
do have.
Do you work outside the house too?
I do, yes.
As a nurse.
As
Or
an
as-
APRN.
As
yeah.
an APRN, okay. At a clinic or someplace. Or
I work
whatever.
at Davis Hospital, Lakeview Hospital, Primary Children's, and Lakeview.
Oh wow! So you put some miles in here.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
And also at a LACE, so I work there too. So which is a medical spa, which is where I also inject.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great.
All right.
I will
motion.
move that we grant a conditional use permit for major home occupation B cosmetic injections for Allison Chatelaine. Did I say it right?
Chatelaine.
Chatelaine. I was close. At 322 North Autumn Cherry Way.
Second.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay, we have a conditional use for a carpet cleaning at 766 South, 1350 West for Robert Kelly.
Okay. All right, Madam Chair, again, as introduction on this one, another home business, this one for carpet cleaning. The applicant has requested to do this business. It's a little different than the other two where the services are performed off-site. So his equipment is stored in his vehicle, which stays in his garage essentially. Having reviewed how everything operates and the site and the conditions there and the regulations of the ordinance, it was my opinion that it would be appropriate to recommend approval without the need for additional conditions. Of the items we have before you this evening for conditional use approval, this is the only one that I've personally received contact of on these 4 items from one of the neighbors, mainly as an inquiry. So there were no concerns expressed or comments. I don't know if they would be here this evening to share that, but saw the yellow sign and wanted to see what it meant. So with that, if there are questions of myself or the applicant, I'd be happy to turn it back to the Planning Commission.
Okay. Is Mr. Kelly here? Come on up. The only question that I had, do you have any chemicals that you dispose of?
I don't have any chemicals that we dispose of. There's wastewater at the end of the job, and we just dispose of that in an RV dump.
Oh, in an RV?
Is it a truck-mounted machine?
It's a truck-mounted machine in the van that fits in my garage, and so I just store it inside my garage.
And then home office to do administrative things and stuff like that.
Right.
Okay. All right.
I'll make a motion that we grant a conditional use permit for major home occupation B carpet cleaning to Robert Kelly at 766 South and 1350 West.
I'll second. Aye.
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 Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one more conditional use permit for an esthetician at 485 East, 100 North.
Okay, and again, as a final introduction on these, Ms. Frazier that's requested this conditional use permit to operate as an esthetician from her home. She is licensed as an esthetician, and this will be a new thing from her, at least as a home business, to begin operating as such. Again, appointments or clients visit by appointment only. Similar to the first one, there can be longer appointments. So again, depending on the services and what the clients want, it could take up generally to 2 hours, an hour to two per visit. She, again, is also employed full-time, so is looking to do this, again, kind of on the side as a little bit extra. So a few appointments each week and maybe a couple in the evenings, depending on what gets scheduled throughout the week. And again, I've visited with her, reviewed the request together with the ordinance based on the findings and our experience with other estheticians around town, and that type of impact felt pretty good of offering a positive recommendation to the Planning Commission, again, without the need for further conditions. And that's my report, and I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. Is Jill Frazier here? Okay. I'll answer any questions you have on that.
I think everything, this all seems to be in place here. I'll move that we grant a conditional use permit, major home occupation B, esthetician, for Miss Jill Frazier at 485 East, 100 North, unit number 1.
I'll second that.
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, thank you. Okay, our next item is a public hearing for a rezone. Would you like to go ahead and introduce?
Okay. Request is to rezone about 40 acres of property highlighted here on the map, just west or south of 200 North, which is right at the very top, and east of Angel Street. The request is to zone this property to R1LD, which, as you're familiar, R1LD zone allows 2 units per acre, but allows some variation in lot size. So it's a density zone rather than a lot size zone. Again, the maximum density is 2 units per acre. The minimum lot size is 12,000 square feet. The property is currently zoned. Primarily, you can see it here highlighted in yellow. The bulk of it is currently zoned R120. A couple of the parcels at the bottom are currently still zoned A or RA. So the L1, the R1LD is not a significant change to the density or the lot sizes in either of those 2 zones. The intent of the rezone request is anticipation of development. This is a concept drawing. The plat is not on the agenda tonight. Once they get the zoning in place and understand exactly what they can do, they'll finalize the preliminary plat and bring that back at a later time. But this is kind of a concept plan of what could be done in this plan. As per the LD zone, the lots vary in size. As I looked at this concept plan over the lots, the smallest one I found was over 13,000 square feet. Most of them were right close to 14, and they ranged all the way up to close to 30,000 square feet. Some of the lots in the back of the cul-de-sacs were in that over 20, and some approached close to 30,000 square feet. So again, the request is to rezone the property to the R1LD, which is a 2 unit per acre density in accordance with the general plan. I think with that, unless there's any questions, we can turn it over to the public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to clarify for the public that if this were not rezoned, in our paperwork it says there could be 89 lots in there, right?
Yes, under the R120 zoning, if they were to get the PRUD overlay zone, they could get 1 unit for every 20,000 square feet rather than 2 units per acre. Mm-hmm. An acre is 43,560, so you get about 10% more lots. That's what that number represents. If it stayed straight R120, you would probably get somewhere in the 70 to 75 range number of lots, because if you took the roads out and just went straight R120, you usually don't get quite to that 2 unit per acre. But if you PRUD overlaid zoned it with open space and those kind of things, you could have smaller lots and more of them under that scenario.
Any other questions from?
And some of us from Mountain Vista's neighborhood comment on this.
Could we? What we'll do is open.
Yeah, as soon as,
We'll open it up now to the public. And let me just remind you, we did receive a lot of emails. We've read it all. So if you would keep your comments to, first of all, the 3 minutes. We've got a timer. And the second one is if you have new information to present, please come up forward.
So, Tamara Anderson, I live in the Mountain Vista subdivision, which this would attach to. We've had a lot of discussion going online on Facebook about concerns about this being rezoned because we are you can see that our neighborhood is zoned one way, and since this is going to be attached to our neighborhood, we're concerned that if you make the lots smaller, that our property values will decrease. And so that raises a major issue. Another point of concern, the more lots that are fit in on there is really only one way for them to get out of their neighborhood and onto 200 North unless they go Angel and then down to 200 North. They're going to come through our neighborhood. So the more houses that are built in there, the more traffic we are going to see on our streets. And so that is of a major concern to us. So,
And which street do you live on?
Oh, I live over on Shadow Breeze Road. So it's not going to impact me quite as much, but it will impact our neighborhood. So,
Okay.
does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Did I miss anything, guys? No, I mean, go ahead.
You want to come up?
Thank you. So I'm Stacy Magnuson. I live at 64 Morning Mist Lane. So I live right in the crossfire. Can you bring up that other map with the lots?
This is purely conceptual too.
Sure. So I'll just show you kind of where we live. So we live here. Is that right? No. Oh, wait.
Yeah, that's the new
Sorry, we live here. Yes. We live right here. So essentially right now, where we live is a dead end. Okay. So already we have a ton of traffic coming through the neighborhood. The neighborhoods or streets are very narrow. She makes a perfect point that, again, traffic is coming through, especially with the new Smiths, with all of everything that's going on the other side. What used to take 5 minutes now takes 25 minutes to get anywhere. The infrastructure does not exist, in my personal opinion, to support another whole subdivision at this point until something's done with the bridge, something's done with maybe something else conceptually to where there actually are other ways out or they're able to find a way out. But as we've talked about it, I mean, like I say, we live right there. As you know, there's a fence now. The fence will come down. The floodgates will open. And unfortunately, it does indeed decrease the value.
Thank you.
One thing too that I'd like to add to really quick as far as
Come up and stay.
Please state your name.
I thought it was pretty loud, but maybe not. One thing I like to add to is
Can you state your name, please?
Brad Magnuson.
Thank you.
I live right. Well, she showed where we live there. As far as the access roads getting in and out, again, like I say, the main arteries coming in are narrow enough to where if you have a car on the left and a car on the right, you only have one car in the middle, and it's not a big slot to get through. So the arteries that feed in and out of this subdivision is what's going to cause a problem as far as the congestion and the ability to get emergency vehicles in and out if need be to do that, as far as the cars parked and things like that during the summertime. Another plot too is I understand this is just a conceptual drawing, but as you can see, there's no open space. It's just pure high density, get the people in, pack them in. So we've done hill farms. Okay, we're extending as far as we can until we ran into the power lines to get to the point where it's like just mass development to get it in while we can, while the prices are high. And I think we're kind of jumping the gun. We haven't finished what we've started. We haven't looked at the bridge. We haven't looked at the arteries at 200 North. I know they're widening it, but it still doesn't come into the path as far as the rate at which we're expanding. We haven't really got a good feel on what that's going to be. I don't think so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Neil Van Leeuwen. I live in the Mountain Vista subdivision. Could you put up the the overlay of the existing houses in the property. So, can I grab a laser pointer?
There's one there on the desk.
Oh.
The red button.
So my house is right here. Right now, all the people that live in this area that we can't see on the map, not all, I can't say that, but a majority cut through here to get us 200 north already. Okay, that's a problem. I'm a realist, though. We can see that this was planned on being developed by how the streets are. But I'm concerned that, and the bottom line is money. If you can get more units in to a piece of property, you make more money as a developer, and that's understandable. I just have a hard time understanding why we would have this and this area zoned one way and then this area zoned for a higher density, and it would be zoned for a higher density. Now, I don't know about an acronym overlay that they can do on this and put 89 lots in. I would imagine that would have to be approved by your council also. To me, it sounds like a coercion, saying, well, if you don't let us do this, then we're going to put 89 units in instead of 82 units in. And to me, it just makes sense that if this neighborhood and this neighborhood are zoned, we should have this neighborhood zoned in the same manner and not a higher density. But I don't oppose developing that land. It's going to happen. Mm-hmm. We just need to do it the best way possible.
Can I clarify something for you real quick? So the majority of the property currently zoned R120, which requires lots to be at least 20,000 feet in size.
Right.
Correct. Under the existing zoning, as it stands right now today, if this property were to be developed as a PRUD overlay, city ordinances could allow as many as 89 dwellings. So
what is a PRUD overlay?
It's a planned residential unit development.
And what does that mean?
That means it needs open space.
So, as an example, the subdivisions that were developed in the surrounding areas, Mountain Vistas and others, were done under the PRUD overlay. Mm-hmm. And correct, they provide open space as part of those to allow flexibility in lot size
so you would have,
to create the development.
You would have lots ranging from 10,000 up to, I mean, these are numbers, I'm just pulling these out of the sky, 10,000 up to 15, 20,000. I mean, it'd be a wide variance with lot sizes because of the incorporated green space, okay, the incorporated open spaces.
So they would have to put some open space in there.
Right. My point being here, though, is this rezone would permit 7 fewer dwellings. Leaving it as is going to allow for more development and more housing. Rezoning it will allow for less.
But where are they going to put and their plan? Oh, they would just redo the plan, and
they'd have to redo the plan.
They would just redo the plan, put green space in, and make the lots all smaller.
Right.
Smaller.
That's what you're saying.
That's right.
But also too, what we heard on the onset here, though, is the LD development or the LD zone is a density zone and not a size zone. It allows for 2 units per acre.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with size, and so this PRUD doesn't apply to that zone.
Correct.
They can't do the same thing with that.
Correct. That's
okay.
Why. Yes. Correct.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've read over this. My name's Dean Wall. I've read over this, and I don't live anywhere near there, but I still have concerns about it. I mean, we're allowing them, or going to be allowing them to put in townhomes, at least by their plat that they're proposing, and that would make the lot sizes a lot smaller, wouldn't it?
There are no townhomes.
There's no townhomes in here, sir.
Oh, I thought I read in here where that was a possibility.
No.
That they could do that.
No.
There isn't?
No.
So, okay, then I read wrong. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
My name's Ed Miles, and I live in the Mountain Vista subdivision, 194 Mountain Vista. And my concern is this is going to be attached to our subdivision, and we're an HOA, and I feel like some of these lots are probably going to take advantage of some of our open space. We have walking paths and trails in our subdivision, and I really think they ought to have the same. I think they ought to have a little bit more open space and more trails and walking paths that accommodate the city, you know, like I think most cities are trying to go that direction with walking paths and whatnot. My other concern is 200 North, the congestion on that road right now. It takes me, once I get off I-15, it probably takes me at least 10 to 15 minutes to get home at 5 o'clock at night. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like a bottlenecks all the way down off that bridge. And it's just going to get worse and worse. And now you're going to add 300 more cars just in that one subdivision alone. And I'm just afraid that we're going to be at a standstill. I know Legacy Highway won't be built for about 4 or 5 more years, being 2020 to 2023. So they won't improve that area out there to widen it for quite a while. And so that's quite a bit of growth in the next couple, 3 years that we're going to have to absorb.
It will help when 2nd North becomes 4 lanes, though.
When are they going to do that?
Spring.
Which portion?
The bridge.
The bridge, and then further west, too. Right?
The bridge has now received clearance. We're having that restriping project designed currently, likely occur in the spring. We think we've missed a season now, but we just settled on the bridge issues, and that cleared it up to be able to proceed to widen that to 4 lanes. And that will be done in the spring.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Thank you.
If I may, Madam Chair, while the next person's coming up, I just received some copies of a letter that I'm going to distribute to the Planning Commission from the neighborhood. So.
Oh. Excellent. Thank you.
Your time's up.
Your 3 minutes are up. Wow.
Oh.
It's a cute little ring.
So.
My name is Wayne Neely, and I live on 75th South, which is on the north end of the proposed development, about right in the middle of that northern boundary. And I think that as we're seeing, any change of zoning will cause anxiety in local landowners, and some will question when the changes will stop and when you can be assured that land will be developed as it's been zoned. One only need look at the proposed changes currently being contemplated in Salt Lake City, as reported in the media, where they're proposing on basically deleting or severely modifying all of the R1 designations in the whole city. Will the proposed zoning change result in a different look and personality of the area? Well, surely it will. Will the proposed zoning change result in economic reduction in land values to existing homeowners? Only time will tell. We only need to look further to the south to a property that's been designated the same zoning, which is just north of the junior high. And it's that same designation. They're putting homes in there now. I called on a couple of those homes, and for lot sizes that were probably in the 0.3 to 0.32 acre size, they were in the $650,000 to $700,000 range. So building costs have gone up and land costs have gone up, as we all know. So it would appear that if they do a decent job in this subdivision, that the land values should be able to be maintained, I would anticipate, based upon this other property in the neighborhood. However, with the zoning change of this impact within the immediate area of larger existing lots, I question the decision for rezoning can be made until the plat of the subdivision is finalized. The existing concept plan on the city website is subject to total revision, and as such, I am not able to determine with surety the location of the roads going down to Angel, how they'll eventually be, as well as the anticipated swimming pool clubhouse complex. However, hopefully this amenity will be located within the boundaries of the subdivision and not adjacent to any abutting properties. I think anyone would be upset with a swimming pool clubhouse that you couldn't even use that was on the perimeter of the property. With the degree of uncertainty of lot size and location of amenities in the subdivision, I recommend that the council postpone the approval of the rezoning petition until the subdivision plat is finalized. If the final plat conforms with the existing concept plan, I would feel that the subdivision would be an acceptable addition to the neighborhood. Thank you.
Do you have a background in something? You know some terms, it seems like.
No, I'm a certified public accountant.
Okay.
I've served on a homeowners committee in the Boise area for a number of years, so
we've
kind of gone through some of these same issues before. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
And I'll just make a note, I believe the applicant is here also, so you may, either during the hearing or afterwards, if they wish to speak.
Okay. Come on up.
I am Corey Lauder. I live actually across the street in the Pheasant Brook subdivision, just right near that parking lot, the big white strip that looks like a racetrack that is often used as a racetrack. That's not why I'm here, though. The subdivision, again, I don't have a problem with development of areas. I really don't. I think that landowners should have, the rights to do within the bounds, that we've set, that they should be able to do what they want. And I understand it's a maximization issue. They want to try to maximize, the dollars for the development, and I get that. The thing I'm kind of concerned about is any sort of a rezoning, and as I understand it, the rezone option would actually decrease the number of homes. Is that right? And I would also recommend, as the gentleman before me, is that you would postpone any decisions until you can get the final decision. Having gone through several developments in my lifetime, I've kind of seen things that were floated first and ended up being something completely different by the time you get to the end of the road. And I'm really concerned as a homeowner because, A, I'm trying to maintain and even improve my property value. But secondly, I'm more worried about the infrastructure surrounding this whole area. This whole summer, we've had a serious issue with water pressure, both from the culinary systems and irrigation. I've been told by the irrigation companies that is a direct result of the population in our area, and they just don't have the capacities that we were needing. In fact, the recommendation I was given by them was to water during the middle of the day, which is completely counter to what we've been told from everything else. We've seen power spikes, power brownouts. I've actually installed solar to try to get away from all of that and have seen a regulation in my power since I've done that, but that doesn't help everybody else. I'm also concerned with just the sewer infrastructure that's available, as well as primarily the traffic issue, which is just getting to be a real big issue. If you have this type of a design where you've got basically the egress points around Angel Street, kind of like it's pointed out, and you have what typically goes on in a soccer season out in that area, as one that lives across the street directly from the soccer park, I can't even mow my park strip because I've got cars that are parking oftentimes on my park strip, running over my sprinklers, hitting my trees. And I get it. They're in a hurry. They're just trying to get the kid to the game, and I get that. I'm not upset about that. I'm just worried that you start adding an increase in the number of traffic, cars, people moving around. That's going to become a real problem, and I think some kids are going to get hurt if we don't keep that in mind. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. my name's Jason Knighton. I also live I'm actually this lot right adjacent to this property. We've always known that this would develop, and I'm all for it. We know it's going to happen. But I just want to echo the sentiment of the last two gentlemen before me, that I feel like before any decisions are made, we really should have a final plat and maybe get that approved. Back when I bought my lot, my lot is just under 1 acre, and I actually came here to the Planning Commission to try to split that in half. I was going to try and keep a half acre and sell off another piece, and I was not allowed to do that because of the R120 zoning. It would have put me just under, on that second lot, it would have been too small. So I'm sitting at like 0.86 acres, and so I would just like to see that whatever that final plat is fits into the neighborhood around, and also that probably I don't wind up with a 12,000 square foot lot next to me where that was something that I was not able to do in the past. So I would agree with that option. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay. We're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. And is the representative of Symphony Homes here? We might have one or two questions for you.
Sounds good. My name is Russell Wilson. I'm here representing Symphony Homes. We appreciate your review of our application. We like the LD zone, and the reason why we like it is because it's still 2 units per acre, but it allows us flexibility to vary the size of our lots. So each lot and each home is unique. One thing that I'm not sure is understood here is a lot of these homes a lot of these lots are going to be 13 to 14,000, even 15,000 square feet on average. We've got, like Andy said, we've got a lot of lots in the cul-de-sacs that are half-acre lots. These lots are going to be the same size, if not larger, than the Mountain Vista subdivision. So as far as density goes, there's not a lot of difference. Open space, the open space question came up. This will be a move-up community similar to other communities we've done in West Kaysville. I would compare it more closely with our Sunset Equestrian subdivision. We are, you can't see it very well on the concept plan, but we are planning on having an open space area. It's almost an acre, and it will have a pool and a tot lot and a park area, just kind of in a central location, right up a little bit, right there. So it'll be visible from all sides of the development, kind of more of a central location. Let's see. Do you have any questions for me?
Right now, I don't have any right now. No.
As far as access goes, there will be 3 existing accesses. One is on Angel Street, and then the other 2 coming from Mountain Vistas. There will be a 4th in the future to the north when that property develops one day.
That's currently just a stub,
It's
correct?
just a stub street, yeah. I would imagine most traffic would exit onto Angel Street. I wouldn't imagine most people would up and around.
You don't know that area. Closest to Davis, no. They'll find the fastest way.
I'm just saying that's what I would do rather than wrapping through a residential subdivision. I'd cut right out to Angel Street.
It's a sweet thought.
And again, this is just conceptual, but we try to get away from the Utah, we call it the Utah grid pattern and there are a lot of raceways, there are a lot of long straight streets that we try to get rid of. So we try to break it up with cul-de-sacs. We know that a lot of our buyers like living on cul-de-sacs as well, just for the safety factor.
I had just a general question. I noticed that there's like 12 to 14 houses on 2 of those cul-de-sacs. Is that a problem for fire?
We regulate cul-de-sacs by length, not by the number of units.
Okay.
So, again, this is preliminary. We haven't done any type of thorough review of this preliminary plat. They know the rules. They say it complies. When we go to preliminary plat, we'll review that in detail.
Okay, thank you.
And I also have a question. Sometimes with the rezone request, we do get an official preliminary plat as opposed to a concept drawing. And just curious, is there just not been enough time to actually do a preliminary, or?
Yes and no. So there's the way we understand it, there's a process. First you rezone, and then you go through with a preliminary plat and then a final plat. All I have to say about that is there are minimums on this zoning. So if we are granted this zoning, we do have to abide by the minimum lot size and the minimum lot width. The design, we're kind of constrained as well because a lot of our floor plans are larger floor plans, and we wouldn't go as small as the 12,000 square foot lot, which is the minimum lot size in the LD zone. We need at least a 13,000 square foot lot. Most of these will be closer to 14 and 15,000 square feet. This is just conceptual. We're actually working on our preliminary design right now. It may change a little bit, but I don't foresee it changing much.
Any questions? You are not ever quiet.
I don't have any questions for him.
Yeah,
okay. All right.
You're good.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
I just have a question. I wonder if somebody knows. With the current school realignment for the high school, is Mountain Vistas still Davis? Still Davis. Thank you. Okay. So, and so I'm just curious. I wonder what this new development would be. Davis as well. Thank you.
I have a few questions, maybe for staff to start. Has there been any studies done, and if so, what is the anticipated time frame that I'm guessing a light will be installed at Angel and 200 North? Is that's 5 years out? Is it longer than that? Shorter than that?
Less than 6 months. It's
Okay.
under construction currently.
Okay, so there will be a light next year at Angel and 200 North.
That's correct. Yes.
Andy, along that, is that factoring in expansion of either or both of those roads, or under existing dimensions?
That project includes this map. This is Angel and Second North. It will widen Second North up to the rail trail to the same width that's east of there, and install the signal at Second North and Angel. So it will widen Second North through that area that's not widened west of the rail trail now.
Okay. So, in other words, from the rail trail, which is just barely west of Smith's,
yes,
all the way to Angel, it's going to be a fully improved right-of-way as wide as it's ever going to get.
That's correct.
Under the current right-of-way.
Yes.
And then what is the horizon, like what's the improvement spectrum or horizon, or I don't know what the word is, from Angel to where West Davis Corridor is going to come in? Does that make sense?
Yes. Most of that doesn't show on this map either. Most of that is under development in some phase or another, and as development occurs, they widen to the prescribed width and install the improvements. So there's, use the pointer. The property that we reviewed recently, when that develops, it'll install the remainder of the improvements there. Subdivision here, there's some open space on the far west on the north side that's being talked about for development as well. That development will improve the last section. So as soon as the vacant property, which is all being considered for development currently, gets gets developed, the west side will be fully improved to that same width as well.
So it seems likely that 200 North will be fully improved all the way to where West Davis Corridor comes in, even before West Davis Corridor even comes in.
That would be the best guess, yes.
Okay. Let's see. So this might be open can of worms, but if I understood you correctly at the very beginning, and I say this to the commission only because I think we have to consider this, but I think we're a little misled, and I admittedly was when I came in, based on the staff report, that if nothing changed, if R120 stayed the same, and we never had this discussion because it's a permitted use and Symphony just submitted a subdivision plat that met R120, they would be in the more to like 70-ish lots. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So, I think we have to at least have that on the table.
I agree.
Because we were only talking about 89, and this is 82 is less than 89, and so makes it seem better. But really, R120 is saying there's going to be 70. I'm not saying that is tipping my hand either way. I'm just saying we have to have that on the table, I think. And I don't need to hold back my hand. I generally think that it makes sense to rezone this because, one reason, if we look at the general plan, which I appreciate a lot of the emails we got mentioned that the general plan is in some respects the guiding document when we're looking at rezones. There isn't much in the general plan. There isn't much guidance to us in the general plan, except for it says west of I-15 allow 0 to 2 units per acre with some higher density housing along the major streets. I think it's been cleared up, at least in my mind it is, but maybe it's not entirely clear. But 0 to 2 units per acre does not mean half-acre lots. It means 0 to 2 units per acre. If it meant half-acre lots, it would say allow 0 or half-acre lots and above or something. But it doesn't say that, and so it's more of a density prescription, as was already said, not a particular size of lot. And so, under the R1LD that is being proposed, the maximum amount of lots is 2 per acre. I think that's right. So I'll just read it out of the code, just so that it's, I guess, out in the open here. This is chapter 17-12-6, paragraph 8. Thank you, Shro. It says in the R1LD subzone district, the total number of residential units within the subdivision shall not exceed 2 per acre within the subdivision.
So it's an average for the whole subdivision.
Right. And so what I'm saying is I recognize the concerns, and vast majority of them are legitimate. But what is before us, based on that language, what is before us is in conformance with the general plan. That's the way I look at it. Am I wrong?
No, it's explicitly within conformance. This is the R1LD zone conforms explicitly to this particular area of Kaysville, and it does conform to the general plan, period. It allows for, in fact, it almost reads it verbatim. I don't have the general plan in front of me. I do have 17-12-6, but if I can borrow Josh here, where we read, west of I-15 allows 0 to 2 units per acre with some higher density housing along major streets, which Angel Street and 200 North do fall into that category. And then we read here, in the R1LD subzone district, the total number of residential units within the subdivision shall not exceed 2 per acre within the subdivision.
Can I ask for a clarification?
How much more explicit do we need to be?
Well, here's my question.
Can you come to the microphone, please?
Speak, please.
If there are lots that are going to be 12,000 square feet in that new subdivision, there's not one lot in our subdivision that's 12,000 square feet. So how can you compare those?
It's an overall average.
Well, I know, but it's a smaller lot than what we have in our neighborhood.
And that's part of the LD zone, though. Where it'll make it up for is there's going to be a 16 or 18,000 lots. Again,
I understand that.
Right. So I guess what's the question?
As Mr.
Some will be smaller, some will be larger.
I just need somebody to explain that to me because.
So
Well, they-
is every lot, so you live in Mountain Vistas,
Yes.
right?
Okay.
Right, okay, you live
So
in Mountain
maybe
Vistas.
I need something explained to me, but
Is
as far as I
every-
know, there isn't
Well,
a lot in our
Symphony
neighborhood
Homes
that's Puerto Rican.
representative, I'm sorry, you said that there were not going to be any 12s. It was going to be 13, 14, and 15.
Yeah, just the way our floor plans are, we have a lot of larger Rambler floor plans, and we can't fit those on 12,000 square foot lots, and so we need at least a 13,000 square foot lot. And again, this is conceptual, but that's what we're showing. We're showing 13, 14, and 15,000 square foot lots on the lengths of the cul-de-sacs, and then in the bulbs of the cul-de-sacs, there's half-acre lots or over a half-acre. A lot of the lots on the south side are not quite a half-acre, but 16 or 17,000 square foot lots as well.
Yeah, I tried to
So
make
this
that larger.
it's an average, and 12,000 is the minimum in the zone, but I can tell you right now we won't have any 12,000 square foot lots in the subdivision.
These lots are very compatible to the lot sizes in Mountain Vista.
That's what I was just going to say. I mean, looking at a quick cursory look here, I see that, I mean, there's varying lot sizes, and this is just based off of this plat here, which is also up there. We can put it up there. That there are varying sizes and shapes.
Well, the math goes right there.
Probably a quarter of the lots will even be larger than the lots in Mountain Vistas. Mountain Vistas are 15 and 16,000 square foot lots.
Well, I mean, along the note of this gets to the question about changing the.
No, that's not right. No, that's not correct.
Okay, just one comment that I had or thought that I had as I was looking at this, and again, this gets to the character of the neighborhood, which I think is somewhat part of this discussion. This is going to. If I heard the concerns of the citizen correctly, either in email or here today, it's going to change the character of the neighborhood. Is a summary of some of the concerns I've heard. I realize that is a matter of opinion, but one thing that weighs against that, in my opinion, is the width of the lot is the same in the existing zone. R120 requires 90-foot width of lots. As you're driving down the street, the lot can't be smaller than 90 feet wide. If it's changed to R1 LD, as is proposed, the lot width stays the same. It's not like, and I've heard some say it's going to look like, hill farms, and they're going to be right next to each other. The lot width is the exact same, whether the zone stays the same or whether it changes to LD. And so, I don't know that it's going to drastically change the character, in my opinion. Like I say, I know that's up for debate, but that's one thing that weighs against it changing the character in my mind.
To piggyback off of Commissioner Sunloff, too, in 1712.6, paragraph 3 states, the front yard for any building shall be at least that indicated below for the subzone district in which the lot is situated. R120, it's 30 feet. R1 LD, it's also 30 feet.
So you're talking the setback. The houses
right.
are going to be. Let me see if I understand. So basically, R120, 90-foot width, 30-foot setback. The house cannot be any closer than 30 feet. R1LD, 90-foot width, house is 30 foot back. So
it will appear exactly the same.
Cosmetically.
From the front yard. Now, I get it. The backyard might be smaller.
Right.
I mean, it probably will be smaller in some cases. In other cases, it might be bigger. But the notion that it's going to be, so much more visually dense, I don't think is accurate.
I agree.
One question I had related to that note, can you go back to a bigger view? broad or a wider view, I suppose, of the zone map, maybe. So the neighborhood around the soccer complex, what's that called?
Pheasant Brook.
Pheasant Brook. I don't know if this might test your knowledge. I do this a lot to Andy. What's the ballpark lot size for I'm talking just maybe to the northwest, those homes there. Do you know lot size there? Yeah, that area.
The lot size in this area are
okay.
They are down in the 10 and 12,000 square foot range. Many of them.
I would guess that there are probably. I know for a fact we got emails from people that lived in that neighborhood. And if I went back with a fine-tooth comb, I could probably find people in that neighborhood that said that this subdivision is going to drastically change the character of the area, which seems a little ironic that they live in a more dense, quote-unquote, area than what this is going to be. And so I think some of the concerns, and I hate to be as blunt, are a little overblown. Now, I think that there are concerns about traffic. I think that there are concerns that have been mentioned that are legitimate. But those are going to happen regardless. Kaysville is not going to be a farming community anymore. It's just going to get developed. And whether I like it or you like it or anybody else likes it or not, that's just what's going to happen. It's eventually going to get built out. And so we look at the general plan and we say, when something comes before us, does it meet the general plan or not? As I've explained in a number of ways, I think this one does. And I'll say this, which I always try to say. Most of you know, if not, hopefully you can learn now, that we are not the deciders here. The City Council is. We are only recommending what we think as an appointed body. We're not elected officials here. What we think they should do. They could take our advice and throw it in the trash and do something completely different. Or they could agree with us, or something in between. So this is the beginning of the question of the decision here, I guess, for you. I would encourage you to come back if and when this goes before the City Council and make the same arguments and raise the same concerns that you have today and in email. But they are the ones that ultimately decide yes or no on this question.
If I can make a couple of comments. Everyone that came up, you can have a seat if you want to. We won't make you stand there all night. The emails that we received and the comments that came up, quite frankly, had little to do with the rezone. Had everything to do with infrastructure. Traffic in the neighborhood, infrastructure problems, emergency vehicles, traffic, congestion on 200 North, postpone it until we get a final infrastructure. That problem will exist regardless of what happens this evening. Whether they keep it the same and build 70 to 89 units, somewhere in there, we still have a traffic problem. We still have a congestion problem. But they can come back in 2 weeks and say, well, we didn't get the rezone. Here's our plot. We're going to start building tomorrow. And the problem's going to happen. You're going to have people driving through your neighborhoods. It's going to happen. For those of you who built your house on a stub road and not a cul-de-sac, a road was going in there at some point. That's the point of a stub road. It's going to be continued, and the traffic's going to go through there. And yes, they're going to drive through your neighborhood. Even for those who think they're going to go to Angel Street and 2nd North, no, it won't happen. They're going to go through your neighborhood, inevitably. So the rezone isn't going to affect any of those things. It's really not. Those things are going to happen, and I think need to be addressed. Probably not by this body, but by others who can make those decisions and plan a little bit better, because quite frankly, 20 years ago, as some of the emails pointed out, probably should have planned better for some of this. There's been a general, we like the small town feel, and I think we need to get past that just a little bit. Kaysville is currently the 26th largest city in Utah, with over 31,000 people. That is not a small town, folks. We lost that small town. It may say America's hometown or Utah's hometown on our signs, but We're not a small town anymore. And we're dealing with the problems of not being a small town. And part of that is getting off the freeway and sitting on 2nd North for 15 minutes to get home. That happens. And this isn't going to change it, whether we rezone tonight or not. I think that as a group, we appreciate your input. We appreciate people getting invested in their neighborhood and in their cause. I would make the suggestion that maybe now is the time to be proactive with some of your neighbors who are already cutting through your neighborhood, because I'm guessing that the problem exists currently and you just don't want it to be any worse than it already is. The numerous emails we got about the parking disaster at the soccer fields. Well, let's work on some of that, because that's going to be in place whether we change this zoning or not. So I think this zoning is simply a sounding board for other somewhat bigger issues that need to be addressed, some by the citizens that are here today, some by us, some by the City Council. We do appreciate your input. So for anyone that leaves this meeting tonight thinking, geez, they already had their minds made up, which is a very common response that we get this stuff a week in advance and we pour over it. You've seen people pull out the general plan and pull out the code so that we're informed when we talk to you. And sometimes we do come to the meetings with our minds made up because we've studied it at length. We love to hear from you, and sometimes you do change our minds. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes whether they change or not, the project's going to go forward. Like Stroh said, we're not the ones that or Josh said, we're not the ones that ultimately make this decision. So we encourage you to continue to be involved, continue to be a voice.
Sometimes, too, I think kind of what's lost in the noise sometimes is we as a planning commission are bound by the parameters of Kaysville City land use ordinances and state code and municipal code and things along those lines. Public clamor can only sway what's before us here, the law, what's before us here, which we generally make our decisions from so many times, so often. We see what's before us here. We see an approved use, an approved land use, an approved zone for this particular area. It falls within the parameters of Kaysville City Code. It falls within the parameters of our general plan that this body, that these 5 people up here reworked a few years ago. I think all of us were here when we retooled parts of that. And those are the things, those are the parameters that we have to, those are the parameters that we operate, through. I mean, I can't say, well, old man Jenkins came to the lectern and he said that, you know what, this can't happen because of this, and this. I can't say, well, gosh, you know what, old man Jenkins, my heart goes out to you, and I'm going to vote against this. I can't do that. I have to look at what's before me. I have to look at the law, and that's where things are here. So I will say one thing too, that in this letter that we received dated October 12th, I don't know who drafted this or whatever, but in the first bullet point, this will change the zoning on that property from half acre lot sizes to quarter acre lots. That's just absolutely not true. And I think that we've shown that, to the 75, 80 of you or so here in attendance this evening, that is certainly not the case. So does it conform to the surrounding area? I think it does. Does it enhance the local area, the surrounding area? I think it does. Do you have something you want to add, sir? Did you have something you wanted to add or not? Did you need to add something? Did you want to add something to the conversation? No, somebody was talking, so I just wanted to...
Okay, well, hold on a minute.
Stroke.
Anyway, that was just the end of it. So I mean, I'm just saying that I think that it's a permittable rezone. It's a permittable use. It fits with the aesthetics of the neighborhood. If anything, it'll enhance across the street directly to the west of it. So that's where I'm at.
I wouldn't mind hearing what she had to say.
Sure.
You would want to. Come on and come up.
I'm Diane Webster. I own the property, but I feel a real big animosity in the room tonight, and I feel really bad about it. I didn't want to sell this property. I would have kept this property till I died. And I don't know what the kids have done. But because it's farming and we needed the irrigation water, we couldn't get any irrigation water because of things that have happened of the subdivisions that have been put there. That our ditch has been compromised. We can't get the water. There's no way we could get water unless we get, thankfully the sitter did work with us and give us some water after the first and second crop. It was too late for the hay and things like that. I can't have it in Greenbelt because I wouldn't be getting any profit off of it. I can't afford to pay the taxes on it if I'm not getting any money from it. There was nothing I could do, and I did the very best I could, you guys. I asked for half-acre lots, and that's what we got. That's why we're trying to do the best we can do. Now, their homes are going to be as good as your homes, or some of them are maybe better than your homes. And we certainly, I've had to put up with, aren't those streets public streets? Aren't they a public street?
Yes.
Then what's the problem with people using a public street? Anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't want to do it. I did it under pressure because I couldn't do anything else. And I don't want you guys to be mad at me. I feel real bad about this, but I can't do anything different. And so I'm sorry. And I just don't like this feeling of animosity.
Thank you for coming up and talking with us and sharing your side of it.
And please don't be mad at her. Be mad at us if you need to.
And I just wanted to thank Diane for making something pretty obvious, which all of us appreciate, and that is private property rights. And a lot of you have already said, we know someday this would develop, and so our job is to help it develop in the best way possible. And I have more to say, but I'll wait until we're ready.
My name is Ezra Harris. I'm on Cooper Street, right next door to my lovely neighbor, Haley Peacock. I want to say thank you for what I believe is a very fair and balanced hearing, and all of the issues have been dealt with. I had a list, and you've met all of them. So I say thank you, and I think we need to move ahead and approve the request.
Thank you so much for your comments. Do you have something to add?
Yeah. My name's Dean Wall. The problem I see with this development, and like I say, I don't live near it, but it is zoned for half acre, but they're proposing to put in only one exit street straight to 200 North.
Okay, we know that there's more, and this is not a public hearing anymore, so thank you.
But you're adding almost 90 homes in there, 80 plus, and an average family has 2 vehicles, and so you're going to put 160 vehicles in that subdivision, and they only had one exit to 200 North.
Again, that's not really what we're debating this evening, though.
Right.
That happens whether we rezone or not.
Right. And the public hearing's over too. So
right.
Yeah.
But
all I'm saying appreciate is you bringing that up, but
they should be made to make more than one exit at 200 North. But the way they've got it set up, it forces most of the people to go through the other subdivisions.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
So I just have a few quick things. And I have heard some great input with the emails and the comments here tonight. So thanks to all of you for all of it. I know for sure that especially the high school kids, but everyone will always find the shortest route to where they need to go, which most of where they need to go is going east, right? So I hear that's already a challenge in your neighborhood. I've spoken a lot with neighbors in Mountain Vistas, beautiful properties, and there's a lot of concern already about the speeding, and even the roads were designed curvy so that couldn't happen as much as straightaways, and there's still speeding in your beautiful neighborhood, and the traffic will increase. So I had a question about at what point would there be a light on Mountain Vistas? That might be something that would, at the very top where the neighborhood comes out onto 200. Is that anything on the radar? Would that be helpful to this neighborhood as this new development starts to grow in the next few years?
Currently, that is not on the radar. Traffic signals are put in subject to meeting warrants as outlined by the Federal Highway Association. If that traffic gets to where it appears that it could meet those warrants, we would do that study and consider a project there. As we've done capital facility plans in the past, that one hasn't shown up as one that was estimated to get there. That doesn't mean it couldn't at some time in the future, but at this point it's not.
Okay, thank you. Infrastructure. Well, first of all, property values decreasing. I do not believe property values will decrease with this new development. And I've heard actually a lot of people say that who've contacted me and spoken with me from Mountain Vistas, that they're not so concerned. They don't believe that the property values are going to decrease with the new development. The open trails and more trails and I mean, there's the park right across, so that's kind of nice for this new development. They will be able to access some of the park over there as open space for them, so that's something to think about. Usually people go to whatever's closest. Postponing for the preliminary plat or making sure we have a plat tied. Am I remembering wrong? Don't we usually have a preliminary plat with a rezone?
No.
Well, I mean, this came up last meeting with a different rezone, and I spoke on it there, and I've spoken on it in the past. That's relatively common. I would say more often than not, on any rezone, whether it's PRUD or just a flat rezone like this, we do see a subdivision plat in accompanying the rezone application. But that's not how it has to be.
And I know it's not how it has to be. No.
Yeah, it's not a requirement. And I like to look, like I've said before, I like to look at them separately. But I would say more than 50% of the time, it's just a total guess, we do see both together, but we don't have to, I suppose.
So as far as the concern that we would do the rezone and then it could be something different than what we're seeing now, but what do you want to say about that?
If you have concerns in that regard, it would be very appropriate to recommend approval of the rezone subject to final plat approval or preliminary plat approval, so that they don't do the bait and switch. If you just flat zone it to R1LD, it's correct. They could come in with another subdivision plat that maybe was not as acceptable as this one. And because it met the requirements of the zoning, you'd have some obligation to approve it. Symphony has a much better reputation than that. I don't think would risk it, but that would not be inappropriate. From their perspective, it costs them money to start putting plats together. Mm-hmm. They need to have some assurance that what they're designing is going to meet the ordinance of the zone when it's done. So they need to know what the zoning is at some point before they spend a ton of money putting the whole plat together. But if you make the rezone conditional upon the final plat approval, I think that covers both zones. They know that if they can come with a decent plat, they can have the zone, and you're assured that the plat will be there, and we won't be left with a zone that could be used for something other than what we anticipated it would be used for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so just so you know, I'm a fan of that. because I believe that was raised as a request, and it's a valid point. So also, let's see. Yeah, I know a little bit about a long talk this morning with the Haight Water District. I don't know that that's the district in this area, is it?
No, that serves a little bit south of this area.
Okay. But I did learn, what they shared with me is that at least their water district, there's the challenge is a pipe going under I-15. So it is true that all of our water pressure is affected the more development that there is out west as far as the secondary water, the irrigation water. And part of it is how hard it is to get more pipes to come through. It's very expensive. So that's a thing, right? Culinary water, yeah, I'm hearing the same thing, that people who have lived over there for a long time are noticing that the pressure is becoming less. I don't know, I guess that conserves water if our pressure becomes less. The pressure in my kitchen sink is also less, but I think that's because there's a buildup of minerals that my husband hasn't figured out in the head of it yet. So these are real things that people notice, and I understand how important it is to consider infrastructure. So for me is the safety, and so the roads and the way that we need to improve the roads is very important and valid. So so I was noticing on Angel today, it seems like it's looking nicely paved. Was there? I can't remember if it was repaved lately. Angel?
Yeah, the bulk of Angel Street.
It was, wasn't it? And so that's probably going to stay a 2-lane. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, so it's considered a major road, but it's going to stay a 2-lane. All right. Trying to think what else about roads and infrastructure I would want to know. Josh asked some good questions about that, so I think I understand it, going west on 200. And that's what I know about infrastructure, I guess. I hear you. I hear you. It's kind of challenging as we grow.
Yeah. I have a couple questions for Mr. Wilson. You kind of generally said this, but can you give me and everyone here an idea of what of a development that Symphony has done in the relatively near, geographic region of what the actual homes themselves are going to look like? Is there somewhere we can say, hey, it's going to look like this subdivision?
Sure. Yeah, I would compare it to our Sunset Equestrian subdivision. That's just a little southwest of this. That would be a good one. We do have some new homes being built in our old farm at Case Creek subdivision that we just finished developing last year, up on the border of Layton and Phillip Street, up in that area. So like I said, a lot of ramblers. They're wide homes, a lot of large 2-story homes as well. I would guess that price ranges will be $600,000 to $1 million in this neighborhood. So as far as property values going down, that shouldn't be the case. If anything, they should go up.
So in terms of just the styling, you're saying it's Sunset Equestrian Estates, generally speaking?
Yes.
Okay. And then I have another question, but while I'm thinking about it, I'll agree with Lorene, and I think maybe others that have said something somewhat similar. Smaller lot size, in my opinion, and I would guess if we had a realtor come in here would agree, smaller lot size, especially out in this area, does not mean cheaper house or less expensive house or lesser property value. I mean, there are homes in Hill Farms, which in some of the correspondence we received was sort of the bane of the area. Hill Farms has over $500,000 homes. Those are on bigger lots probably. But even the homes on the smallest lots in Hill Farms, if we're using that as an example, I would guess Hill Farms probably averages in the high 300s at least, maybe even higher in terms of average property value. I think it's a stretch to say that that whatever comes in here, and if it's going to look like Sunset Equestrian Estates, there are close to $1 million homes in that area. I think it's a stretch to say that the property values are going to go down however this got developed, whether it was state R120 or went under a PRUD or R1LD. And so then my next question, just for Symphony, is did you consider doing the PRUD overlay, and if so, what was your analysis, and why did you end up going to the LD?
I think a lot of that had to do with the constraints. I mean, the stub streets are where they are, and we've had a lot of success in Sunset Equestrian Estates with that community gathering area, the pool, the park, the tot lot area, and we like that idea. We didn't have any ideas as far as any trails in this subdivision. We didn't know where they would go. Any more open space. We'd like to make our open space usable, and people seem to like that amenity, adding a pool, and it attracts a lot of people, a lot of families.
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I just wondered, is there going to be an HOA?
There will be an HOA, okay. Yes.
I don't know, Lyle or Andy, did the city staff persuade either way in terms of PRUD or LD? I mean, was there did the staff have an opinion on PRUD or LD?
I don't believe we do. I think we like to give them the option whether the open space is privately owned by each individual homeowner or commonly owned by the community. That's why there's the two different zones that are very similar.
There's a required amount of open space in the PRUD overlay, and if we were to give that amount of open space, we would need to maximize the density of our lots. So we probably would propose higher
Smaller,
density,
yeah.
the 89 lots.
Right.
So if you could just go back to the zone map, and on that point you just made, I just want to clarify that. So zoom in so that you can see Mountain Vista. Can you do that? I mean, everyone that lives in Mountain Vista or lives in this area knows Mountain Vista has the open space, the common open space, right? If Symphony had come in with a PRUD application and was proposing a common open space subdivision, which is allowed under which is an option under the PRUD, they might have something similar to what you see on Mountain Vista, with a big, large swath of common open space, maybe some trails connecting, that sort of things. But then you would be forced to make all the lots in the 12,000 range, or whatever the smallest lot size was. So this is seemingly a compromise in my mind. It's a compromise from PRUD, which would have 89 lots potentially, a lot of common open space, but much smaller lots, and then it's a compromise with R120, which is, let's just say the 70 lot range. It's a compromise between those two that still meets the general plan. That's the way I look at it. It sort of meets in the middle of those two, but still meets 2 units per acre. And so I think it's a happy medium from that perspective.
And a lot of people didn't understand what the LD zone really was, so hopefully there's been more understanding of that tonight.
Okay.
I have one question, Andy, for staff. Immediately to the north of this development, there's a plot zoned A5, kind of buffering between it and Second North, and one of the stubs actually leads to that property. Do you know, are there development plans for that particular property as well? You can see there's a stub that runs into that, and it
owner
looks
of
like
the property
we may have
is
a
here.
gentleman here who can address that. I don't know.
If you'd like to address that, I'm fine with him.
Okay.
So I understand he has no immediate plans, but I'll let him say.
My name is Nephi Harvey, and I'm one of the owners, along with the rest of my family, of that A5 property.
Okay.
Contrary to popular belief and rumors that get spread, there are 0 plans to sell and develop that at this point. We don't have any timeline whatsoever to put development on that property.
Do you want to build a road out to Second North on it, though?
I would.
You'd make a lot of people happy here. Yeah,
toll road.
Like Diane Wester said, we'd prefer to keep farming it.
Yeah, that's
we
great.
finally have some water back to it.
Oh.
The chaos and the mayhem of Second North, both now and in the next 6 months as they develop, is going to raise Cain with our ability to farm that property.
Mm.
We've held on this long. We'll see how long we can hold.
Okay. Thank you. I was just curious.
And one other thing that I'm not sure we addressed all the way because we didn't have this letter in advance, but so a good question on the last point of the group letter from Mountain Vistas, is there any way to make this a separate subdivision and have them go in and out on Angel Street? And everything I've learned, it's my 4th year as a planning commissioner, is that it's very dangerous to only have one way in and out of subdivisions. It's just not safe. And so that's the answer right there. You need multiple ways to disperse the traffic. You need multiple ways for emergency vehicles. So it's just not safe if there was only one way in and out of this subdivision. Good question.
Okay.
Are there any more questions? We're good?
Ready for a motion?
Yeah. Well, we're...
Last hurrah.
Just 2 quick questions. I'm Brian Johnson. One, I appreciate the setback you discussed. Do you know will the setbacks from side to side be the same across zoning?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And then 2, as a planning commission, is there anything that you can think of or that you have done to control traffic in this type of scenario where originally it was planned for a very small community road and now it's becoming a much larger road, meaning Mountain Vistas Road? Is there anything that we can do or that you can do as a committee to address that or probably alleviate some of that down the road?
That is a great question.
Yeah,
And so it's the traffic calming, right, that was installed by the last city council, not our current city council, but the last one, traffic calming. Do you want to explain that a little bit, Andy?
We do have a traffic calming policy that was adopted 2 or 3 years ago that addresses some of those issues or tries to. We can monitor this, and we have acquired some traffic counting devices that the police department goes out, and when people are concerned with the amount of traffic or the speed of the traffic, we can look at that and see verify the extent of the problem. So we look at that. It's not an easy thing all the time. We can look at this subdivision, especially in the conceptual stage, and see if there's things, road alignments, or things that could be done there that would make it deter traffic from making certain maneuvers or speeding or whatever. So there's things, but
if it's the shortest path, people find it.
It is sometimes difficult to completely control what people want to do.
I think controlling traffic, dealing with traffic, as much as we like to try to make it a science, it's much more of an art than a science, I think, in some respects. And so I think in part answer to that, you can look on the city's website at those traffic calming guidelines. There's a process where citizens can come before the city staff and talk with them and work with them on areas of concern. And then if it's not addressed or adequately addressed, then there are other sort of steps beyond that, if I remember correctly. But even, you just have to keep in mind, you can be vigilant about that. You can go through the process, and to my point that I think it's a bit of an art, sometimes it doesn't always fix it. But to a large extent, the staff doesn't know about problems until they're told about them. We don't have a full-time code enforcement person that goes around and that's their full-time job. It's just not in the budget, I suppose, with Kaysville City and with the city of our size. And so we sort of rely on the staff relies on the citizens to bring issues before them, and then the staff addresses them. So I think that concern probably falls in that realm and not necessarily within the Planning Commission's purview.
So, but yeah, there are things to do. A planning principle, interestingly, people will slow down without being forced to when there's a whole bunch of scientifically things of curvy roads help. You've got a curvy road already. When homes and businesses are set back, people speed more. So we like the homes set back, but people speed more because you feel less safe to speed when you feel crowded. So that's an urban planning principle. So some of those things aren't going to change because we already have developed these nice neighborhoods, but there are traffic calming measures. And in Hess Farms, I'm a fan of the thing that shows your speed, and the city does place those in certain places. And I just know that's one of the things that I think can help.
I like the toll road idea myself. I think that would work great. But
That was my idea. Can I get cut?
let's talk afterwards. We'll see what we can.
Yeah.
We'll man it day and night, you and me. We'll just 10 cents at a time.
I'm going to move that we grant rezone of 41.22 acres of property from RA residential agriculture and R120 single family to the R1LD single family low density zoning district for Symphony Homes at 101 South Angel Street. Approval contingent on final plat approval.
You're recommending, just to be clear?
Yeah, recommend.
Right.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Tom.
Aye.
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 Good meeting.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Any reports?
Unless there are any from the commission itself, just a reminder on our upcoming meeting on the 26th. And just a reminder of also things to be keeping in the back of your mind for future discussions. Unfortunately, just with workload, we haven't been able to get it back before you on the agendas, but some ordinance items that we have previously discussed regarding procedural things. Hopefully that'll be coming back before you soon. And then in the near future, I suspect the accessory building.
Hey, would you guys mind taking your conversation out into the vestibule?
It's like church. This is like church.
Thank you. I don't care what it's
Okay.
like.
I have a couple things.
Let's wait till they leave.
Let's give them 8 seconds to leave. Okay.
Okay. We're continuing on with our meeting.
Could you please take your conversation out into the vestibule, please? We still have our meeting to conduct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you ask for call to the public?
Did what?
Oh.
I didn't hear a word you said.
Yeah.
I heard it all, but ignored it.
We couldn't hear you.
Well, I'll repeat it after. Andy's pointing out we're skipping an agenda item, so he's
We missed call to the public.
the call to the public. So if there are other comments, I apologize.
Call to the public. Would you like to say something?
I'm going to still say something. My name's Dean Wall. On the development, like I say, you're allowing a developer to come in and add 80-plus homes, and like I'm going to reiterate the same thing. They're only allowing one access point that they're out to 200 north. There's other ways to make that development so that they would have more exits to 200 north than only one. So you're forcing, 160 plus cars to go other than 200 north.
There's 3 exits out of that subdivision.
No, there's only one that goes to 200 north.
There's none.
They're forcing all the rest of them to go through the neighborhoods.
Okay.
There's only one exit out of.
Well, and again,
There's 2, Angel to 200 north.
Our issue tonight was rezoning, not traffic.
The subdivision plat will consider that.
There was always only going to be one exit out on Second North, no matter what we did here tonight. Right.
No,
they're not going to put
there's a
you
way
out
to
there.
develop that with more than one exit.
But we can't force it.
Well, I understand you can't force it, but I'm just saying.
Thank you. We will take it under advisement. Thanks. Okay.
Okay.
Now we'll go to reports.
We'll repeat. I apologize with the commotion we had. So just a reminder, the 26th, the next meeting, so the normal schedule. And then just a reminder to keep in the back of your minds as ideas and thoughts come forward, hopefully sooner than later when we get time to finish the drafts and proposals, the ordinance items that have been brought up, what the procedures we've previously discussed, and then accessory buildings that was recently brought up as an item. So hopefully we'll have something to you soon as for review. But
And Chad Smith sent a nice email, right? He's got some.
And I believe everyone is included on that. So yeah, we've had some feedback from community.
Mm-hmm.
We still have a lot of review to do internally on how that might affect things, and of course we appreciate your feedback when we get there. So be prepared.
Question. So with this and with just this whole part of Kaysville, all the way going east to the highway, I'm hearing a lot of things about the timing of the signals. People are really complaining about the timing of the signals.
Which one?
Particularly the one that is at the top of Barn, or is it Kays? Right there by Barnes Park and coming out of the business park, that signal right there. Yeah,
West.
I'm hearing a lot of concerns about that. So some of the ideas that people are talking about is that in the night, maybe it's something that can be different at night. I don't know. They say that they can sit for a long, long time, and it's like it doesn't sense that they're there at particular times of day. I don't know.
They should just run it.
About a year ago, we contracted with a company to do maintenance on our signals. Since we have more than one now, I'll have them go out and look at it.
Yeah.
So is it particularly at night that they're concerned when there's less
traffic?
traffic?
Yeah, I'm hearing it at night, and even at busy times of day to be able to try to turn left without a protected arrow, I guess, right there.
That's a different issue.
And that's a different issue, yeah. So, yeah, I'm definitely hearing the weights. Someone suggested maybe at night it could go to a flashing red and a flashing yellow for the 200 and then the cross street. I don't know if that's...
Probably at this point, it just needs to go more to full detection at night.
Okay.
Usually what they'll do is they'll set the major street as the priority, so it would stay green, and that would only flip if it detected a car.
If it detects, it sounds like it's having a problem detecting.
It may have a detection problem, so I'll have our guy that does that take a look at it and see if
I said I would bring that forward. I mean, I've heard it from a lot of people, so not just one.
Well, if you weren't campaigning at the intersection while people are waiting for the light to change.
I know. I should do that. But I am the voice that is receiving all this information right now.
After the election.
I am the body receiving all this feedback for Kaysville right now.
That's good.
And I did get stuck a long time behind the train. And a policeman had to come, and his lights were flashing, and something was up with the train. It was sitting on the sensor, and so it wouldn't trip, even though there was no train coming. And that was a thing.
I was just assumed it didn't sense my car. So
I was about 10 cars back. I'm like, oh my goodness.
That was a lot worse when that happened at 2nd North.
Oh, I remember. I remember.
Just another quick item. You're probably all aware, but the City Council has canceled their meeting for next Thursday.
Oh, right.
Based on UEA, I think only 2 of them were going to be in town or something. Just so you're aware. So this item will not go directly next week like it normally would. It will be delayed a couple weeks till their next regular meeting.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Move to adjourn.
Okay. Good job.
thanks, everybody.